is the most backward system I've ever seen in any civilized country.
$45 for one movie, or you're getting to see 2 or 3 movies for that?
That's someone very obscene to the woman, showing them middle finger, using the 4-letter word.
Well, you know, these guys in the back here, well, hi, how are you doing? I'm actually in the back behind the building commonly referred to as the poorhouse. It's actually a facility in St. James across the street from Gael. And watching a football game, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. I just wanted to chat a bit about this pet peeve of mine, and that is this grumbling that Trinidadians have a tendency to do when they're faced with high prices, in particular with the advent of the ICC World Cup here in Trinidad. It first began at the Sir Frank Worrell grounds. People talking about the exorbitant cost of doubles, for example, $6 for a double, $6 for a pack of peanuts. So what? I can't believe I have to pay $30 for a sandwich. I can't believe it's $18 for a beer. I can't believe Villa charges $300 for the works now. Listen, I'm going to say this only once, and I'm going to explain to you why. If you can't afford it, don't go. Trinidadians always grumble about prices, and then they dig into their pockets and they buy it. The same thing with Movie Town. I can't believe they raised the price of a movie. Oh God. Here. You know, if you can't afford it, just don't go. You know, I'm quite sure that many of you who went to the ICC World Cup and were horrified by the exorbitant prices, I'm quite sure that same lot of you went to Germany for the World Cup, Football World Cup. How many of you complained over there about paying €5 for a stinking hot dog? You know, no, you went over there, you had a ball, but to come home and in your own country pay top dollar, well, that's a problem. Now, I'm not trying to justify these prices. Of course, I think it's obscene and perverse. But the fact of the matter is there are people who can afford it. Let them go, because their purpose in life is to go to the Oval and sit down in these stands with their stupid wide-brim hats and show everybody else that they can afford to be there and to make you feel bad about yourself. So don't fall into that trap. Listen, you have to do like me. I know that there's certain things I can afford and certain things I can't afford. True happiness lies in acceptance. You have to learn to accept that your future and your love of cricket must involve you sitting down with a group of friends with a cool at your side on your vinyl couch watching cricket on a 14-inch screen TV and keeping your ass quiet. That is the only way you will ever achieve true happiness in life. I can't afford to go to a cricket game, so I'm here watching a bunch of no-talent Gael staffers play football in the poorhouse. Before we go any further, yes, I want to end the speculation right here. I did tape up my nipples. I didn't realize this t-shirt was going to be like lingerie. Anyway, cricket. The visitors are here. I'm always a bit trepidatious when it comes to having foreigners in our country. Why, you ask? Quite simply, fear of embarrassment. Nothing works in this country. No water, power failures, no phone service, rubbish everywhere, transportation sucks. We're making people play jump rope with TSTT cables in Diego Martin. Let's face it, this place is a joke. And I'm always severely criticized for my views. People say I should be more patriotic.
Cricket's World Cup tournament is less than a week away, and we had our first bit of drama on Wednesday when a gas leak forced South Africa's team to evacuate their hotel. The Trinidad Hilton was cleared after some of the guests and staff were overcome with fumes that were later traced to a leak on the 8th floor. Canada, Ireland and Pakistan were also affected, and although some people were taken to hospital, the teams escaped without harm.
Welcome to Trinidad. You've been to Maracas Beach already? Excellent. Have you tried our tear gas yet? It is spectacular. Whenever I second-guess myself on my embittered perspective of Trini culture, some defining characteristic of this country intervenes to argue my case for me. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
The National Carnival Bands Association has been forced to evacuate their offices. Workers were told that the asbestos could endanger their health. The question for UDCOT, which is carrying out the demolition, is why people were allowed to be inside the building even as it was being torn down.
Showing them middle finger, using the 4-letter word.
I want to go to an issue which inflamed the nation, albeit for a very short period of time.
As far as I know, 83% of the prison population come from specific communities, which predicates the need for a strong and distinct Senator Padmore, a strong and distinct national development plan accepted by the entire society for these specific 16 communities. And you know who they are, what communities they are. Such a plan must include the churches, a change in abortion laws, strong family planning services with cash incentives for voluntary sterilization, re-education in reading, writing, and arithmetic, nightly on-the-spot skill training, preferably in church buildings, exposure to drama, art, and classical music, and counseling by leading private sector individuals telling their life stories. Only a new government will be able to lead these communities into their promised land and nirvana.
Are you on drugs? You cannot say things like that in public. Of course, you're free to ruminate on such thoughts within the confines of your own brain, even chat about it with the like-minded friends at a roadside rum shop over a nip and a bowl of dirty ice. Of course, he was not even gifted the opportunity to fall on his own sword with some dignity. He was guillotined swiftly by his party. After all, the UNC already has one albatross to cope with. The vitriolic vituperations vented by the venomous public vilified this villain, who is then summarily vanquished by his very own voters. Yes, he stood directly on that ant's nest with bared ankles, and we all know the hazards of such carelessness. Mr. Mangal Singh, the man who died shortly after being sworn in, died a much better death than you. And it was expected that you'd fall honorably on your sword for the sake of the party, but what did you do? You proceeded to air the UNC's dirty laundry in public, and we all know the punishments that have been meted out in the past for such transgressions. Yes, banishment to Hulseyville, where one is left to wander in political purgatory until some party is prepared to take you in, by which time whatever resonance you had with the population has waned. But I digress. Mr. Mangal Singh was summarily guillotined by the opposition, which in quite unusual fashion sought to disassociate itself from your utterances. Or that this did not seem necessary when on one occasion Mr. Pandey answered one reporter's question with, "Why you ask your mother?" Speaking of our fearless leader, the headlines and intrepid budding reporters eager to dribble their stand-ups in the shadows of the Hall of Justice shouted, "Basdeo Pandey is free!" Well, he was always free, you asses. He's just now freer thanks to a supremely jackass move by the Chief Magistrate, who in his own mind thought that he'd played a master stroke in chess. This, of course, resulted in the tremendous embarrassment of our nation and a colossal waste of taxpayers' money, Sharma's money, and my airtime. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Now it's time for a little segment called Fun with Parliament. I'm not so sure that this will become a regular feature of the show because it is not often that parliamentary sittings lend themselves to this sort of treatment. And I can relate to parliamentarians. I've had trouble sleeping for years. I've tried everything from herbal, and I'm talking tea, you slut potheads, to under-the-counter FDA-banned medications acquired from shady websites on the internet that also peddle penis enlargements. Fortunately, the latter proved far more beneficial. But one afternoon in Parliament, and that was it, I was out like a light. But even for a heavy Parliament snoozer like Hedwige Barrow, it would have been difficult to sleep through this. I believe that it is high time that crossing the floor in this country should come to mean that we do it Taiwanese style. Get in each other's faces. Tear out that weave. Knock those dentures out. Jesus, we're paying for the Parliament channel. Can we at least be entertained? Why should we have to put up with Fitzgerald Hines and his Don King-esque repartee? Is it not at least time for some fisticuffs to break up the paralyzing monotony? It is one thing if you're saying something important, but I'm quite sure that all of you out there can tell when someone is talking simply because he or she likes the sound of his or her own voice. Shame on you! You make hardcore sizzler-loving ganja-praising rastas want to shave their heads bald, take off their clocks and put on hard shoes and throw the sack of nuts of the patronizing motorist on the highway, haul off and join a small church. I want to move away from that for now and deal with something a bit more somber. We recently suffered 3 great losses: journalist George John, Calypsonian the Mighty Terror, and economist, author, statesman, and so much more, Lloyd Best. Immediately following his passing, the debate raged on the radio talk shows with the most insipid remarks you could imagine. Lloyd Best had no impact because he never connected with the common man. You know, I distinctly remember sitting with Lloyd Best one morning doing a live television interview when a caller said, "If you have so much of good ideas, why you don't get involved in the politics?" His answer was quite simple and in its simplicity, brilliant. But I am already involved in politics. I have been for years. That's why I am here today. Talk done. And that was the problem. Mr. Best was dealing with a population whose sole political construct is, only concept of politics is, you either run in for a seat, use either PNM or is UNC. A life of political activism, founding a political movement that would come to rout the PNM after nearly 4 decades of gross incompetence and corruption, serving the country and the region for an entire lifespan. No, that wasn't worth it. Lloyd Best's genius was not to blame. People's myopia and garden variety stupidity was. You know, Dr. Morgan Joe weighed in on the debate as well, and he made the point quite succinctly. People would not listen to Lloyd Best. They listened to Crow and Aloes. And when I tell you this, you tell me how fast. Come election time, we cut in UNC. Now, Dr. Job is a man for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect. Ultimately, Dr. Job was his own worst enemy. When he began to talk about jagabats and whores in secondary schools, shh, think it, don't speak it. Well, let's just say he graduated from the same school of tact where Harry Mungelsing got his diploma. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Que sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera. What will be. Since I am just a
It's time once again for Trini Dictionary. You know, there's quite the construction boom going on in this country, and with that, it is inevitable that you're going to come across this word, equipments. You may recall from a previous lesson we spoke about pluralization. So kids, let's go again, use it in a sentence. We're trying to keep we fees down, but it have cost of equipments keep raising. Now this word in a very small community in this country also means alcohol. Example. What are you doing tonight? Well, I'm home here. Okay, I come in, but I have to stop in the grocery first to get some equipments. Moving on. Bay leaf. I know what you're thinking. It is the leaf from the tree from which we derive bay rum, which is equipments for vagrants. No, you would be wrong there. We'll use it in a sentence now. Mr. Kernahan, always send a reporter quick here in Belmont. Them say I have money for them. They come to seize my property. It have some policemen outside with the bay leaf. Let's talk a bit about some of the vocabulary used by journalists in this country. I heard this gem used in a newscast by a very well-known anchor. The word is cricketer. And this was the sentence. A tough day down under for the South African cricketers. And why not? We have musketeers, buccaneers, cricketers. And now this is one I heard used by a radio announcer on a very popular radio station, no names. The Law Association should stay away from making public pronouncements on this matter. It is dangerous coming from people of their ilk. I'll let you figure that one out. Moving on, let's talk a bit about culture. We all know how heavily we Trinis are influenced by foreign music and dances. Well, the latest thing is the dirty wine. All the young scazzy bells are doing it. In fact, there was a story not too long ago about a young Jamaican girl who died doing this dance. Such are the dangers of this bizarre mating ritual. You don't believe me? Take a look.
Pull it up back. Yep, good to go.
Even when she was upside down, she was doing the dance. That is commitment. But the young harlots out there are not the only ones doing the do. As we leave you, we have a clip of a man doing his thing.
Is the most backward system I've ever seen in any civilized country.
$45 for one movie, or you can see 2 or 3 movies for that.
That's someone very obscene to the woman, showing them middle finger, using the 4-letter word.
Going to the licensing office at Rice Road in Port Spain
is the most backward system I've ever seen in any civilized country.
$45 for one movie, or you can see 2 or 3 movies for that.
That's someone very obscene to the woman, showing them middle finger, using the 4-letter word.